Could Texas Tech be a dark horse in 2024 in the Big 12? I think they could, and I do think they're in that category of being a dark horse team in this conference. We'll go game by game with predictions, but first, just some thoughts on this team. Baron Morton turns at quarterback, very solid player. Really, if you look at this entire team, I don't even have to go position by position because it's kind of the same across the board. They are very solid at every position. There is no glaring weakness on this Texas Tech team, at least with their starting lineups. I don't know that they're really elite anywhere. I don't think that they are, have a lot of superstar type players, but they've got a lot of really good players. And again, that's kind of the story if you look at each position group. Depth, I think, is a little bit of a question mark, at least with proven guys. That I know they've got a lot of young players. We talked about this on the TCU video. Texas Tech and TCU actually have been at the top of the Big 12 in recruiting the last couple of years. So there's young talent on the roster. And if it all comes together, Texas Tech, again, could potentially be a team that could make a run at the Big 12 championship. The schedule sets up really, really well for them. They don't have to play Utah. They don't have to play Kansas or Kansas State. They got several big games at home. So I think it works out pretty well for them. The non-conference, not bad either. They start with Abilene Christian. That should be a win. And then after that, if you got Washington State, North Texas. Washington State's on the road. I don't think they're going to be great this year. It seems like, with Washington State and Oregon State, if they don't get into a power conference, those programs probably are going to go downhill pretty quickly. It's just not going to have a lot of guys wanting to go play there. So, again, just looking at the two rosters, Texas Tech should be the better team. It is on the road, so that one could be tricky. Don't be surprised if it winds up being close, but I think Texas Tech is good enough to get a win there, and I think they beat North Texas as well. So, no reason they don't start 3-0. Then they'll play Arizona State on September 21st. I talked about this Arizona State team as a team that's really, they're underrated. If you look at their team, their roster, and some of their weapons on offense, it's a pretty good team. They're not a team you're just going to go out there and blow out. I think Arizona State will be able to compete in most games in the Big 12. So this could be a tough matchup for Texas Tech, but they're the better team here. And they're playing at home, so I don't really see them losing. But I just don't think it's going to be a 4-touchdown win like maybe some people would expect. With Cincinnati next, and again, Cincinnati defensively is really going to struggle in my opinion. They've got a defensive line that should be pretty good, but other than that, I think they're really going to struggle. Offensively, maybe they can put up some points, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Texas Tech scores a lot. Texas Tech wins, and I would be very, very surprised if Texas Tech does not start 5-0. They should absolutely start 5-0. No reason why this team should not be 5-0 heading into the month of October. And then they'll play Arizona. This will be a tough one here. A very good offense. Can Texas Tech's defense stand up against this Arizona Wildcat offense? It's going to be really, really good. That's going to be the question mark there. It's going to be, this is a close one. I don't think there's a huge gap between these two teams. That Arizona is at home, and I got to go with Arizona. So going with Arizona in that game, it should be very close. They get a bye week before playing Baylor. Not expecting a whole lot from Baylor this year. I think they'll be okay. I don't think, kind of like Arizona State, they won't be terrible. They will be pretty competitive in these games, but I don't think they're going to be able to win. I think Texas Tech, again, the better team, should be able to win. TCU is next. I think these teams are very, very similar, very even teams here with Texas Tech and TCU. This one really maybe just comes down to home field advantage, and that goes in the favor of TCU. Iowa State up next, November 2nd. Going to be a very, very solid Iowa State team. Experience coming back, and really across the board, Iowa State's going to be a very solid team this year. They're another team, like you look at, there's the top group in the Big 12, and then you've got this dark horse group with Iowa State, TCU, Texas Tech, UCF. These are teams that could possibly be contenders, and if things break their way. I think these teams are pretty even, but again, home field advantage is going to be the deciding factor for me in this one. Going to go Iowa State, and I've not been doing this as much this year. If you've been watching my predictions, I haven't just been going with the home teams in these 50-50 games. It's just kind of how it played out with Texas Tech. But Colorado's up next. Something similar with Colorado and Texas Tech. I think both teams are going to not be great depth-wise on defense, especially. But Texas Tech, again, has these young players they've been developing. Colorado doesn't have that as much. So I think as we get later into the season, the young players should step up for Texas Tech, whereas Colorado, maybe they're not quite as good if they have some injuries and things. So it's a game that should be very competitive, but I think Texas Tech at home is going to be able to win this. I think they have the matchup to be able to take this one. So going Texas Tech, that's gonna be a fun one. That's gonna be a fun game there. But I think Texas Tech's able to win it at home. Oklahoma State is next after a bye week on the road. Now I do think this Oklahoma State team is just a little bit of a step above those teams that I just mentioned. The dark horse tier with Texas Tech and TCU and Iowa State and those teams. Oklahoma State's going to be really good, and they've got a ton of experience coming back. There are some people that think that people like me are overrating this Oklahoma State team, but I don't think that we are. I really think this is going to be a legit top 10, top 15 team. Very tough place to play. I don't see Texas Tech winning this one. Going to be too tough. Then they'll close things out with West Virginia, a team that's going to be really good at the line of scrimmage, going to be really good at running the football. I do think West Virginia has an advantage at the line of scrimmage, and they're playing at home. Tough place to play. I got West Virginia winning this one. So an 8-4 record for Texas Tech seems pretty clear to me. I feel very, very good about this prediction. There's a lot of predictions I don't feel so good about, but maybe the games don't go exactly like this. But I think 8-4 with this schedule is definitely the most likely scenario for Texas Tech. What are your predictions for this team? Let me know down in the comments below.